Learn Elite Self-Mastery, 10 Principles that Transform Chaos into Clarity. What if I told you that feeling like your life is falling apart doesn't mean you're broken, it means it's simply unbuilt. You're not lazy. You're not inadequate. You're drowning in a sea of 1,000 decisions, suffocated by endless noise, and navigating without a map. And here's the truth that nobody talks about: when your days feel like random events strung together, it's devastatingly easy to feel lost, even when you're working harder than you've ever worked in your life. This isn't a motivational speech designed to pump you up with false promises. This is a wake-up call grounded in reality. In the next few minutes, you're about to discover 10 foundational principles that will reorganize your entire existence, mentally, emotionally, and physically. No fluff. No fantasy. Just battle-tested strategies that actually work in the real world, allowing you to seize control one deliberate decision at a time. You'll discover how to stop hemorrhaging energy on meaningless tasks. You'll learn to streamline your daily choices so they support your vision instead of sabotaging it. You'll finally construct the kind of inner and outer framework that transforms life from a frantic scramble into a focused, deliberate journey. If you're tired of feeling adrift, like you're perpetually behind, perpetually scattered, perpetually running on a treadmill that never stops, watch until the very end. This might be the turning point you've been waiting for. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Define the architecture of your days. I stand before you as someone who has devoted his life to studying human behavior, observing why some people radiate calm and command their existence while others feel perpetually rushed and fragmented. And here's what I've discovered through countless observations: the difference rarely comes from talent or fortune. It comes from one solitary, deliberate choice that most people are too distracted to ever make. That choice is simple: deciding how you want your life structured. Until you make this conscious decision, your life will be shaped by other people's agendas, random circumstances, and fleeting emotions. This isn't a character flaw. This is human nature on autopilot. Most people begin their mornings already behind. Their phone dictates what matters. Their boss pulls them one direction. Their family yanks them another. When darkness falls, they collapse, exhausted but unfulfilled. They worked all day yet feel nothing is actually complete. That frustration compounds into self-doubt. That doubt festers into quiet anger toward life itself. And this painful cycle repeats not because people lack strength, but because they never pause to consciously architect their days. Structure isn't about tyranny or control. It's about sanctuary. The human brain feels genuinely safe when it knows what comes next. When your days have intentional shape and rhythm, something biological shifts inside you. Your nervous system calms. Your breathing deepens. Your shoulders finally relax. You stop merely reacting and start actively choosing. That single shift can revolutionize your energy in just 1 week. Architecting your life begins with unflinching honesty. You cannot build a castle on quicksand. You must sit in stillness, with notebook or contemplative silence, and ask yourself hard questions. How many hours should your work rightfully claim? How much time does family actually deserve? How much time belongs exclusively to you? Not someday. Every single week. People insist they lack time, but here's the revolutionary truth: time isn't discovered. Time is allocated. Every human walks through 24 identical hours. The chasm between flourishing and floundering comes down to how those hours are organized. The architecture of your life begins with your mornings. How you start your day programs your mind for everything that follows. A rushed morning breeds rushed thoughts. A calm morning cultivates a calm mind. Consciously decide what your first hour should embody. Wake time. Quiet solitude. Movement. Learning. Reflection. Intentional planning. It doesn't need to be elaborate. It needs to be deliberate. When you wake with absolute clarity about what that first hour is for you, you stop negotiating with yourself. That single commitment saves you an extraordinary amount of mental currency. Next comes the architecture of work itself. Work without structure doesn't just tire people, it corrodes them from within, far more than genuine hard work ever could. Deliberately establish when work begins. Define when it ends. Identify what must happen before anything else. Acknowledge what can genuinely wait. When everything screams for attention equally, your brain remains locked in tension. When your priorities are crystalline, calm settles over you, even amid demanding effort. Structure transmutes raw effort into tangible progress instead of pure exhaustion. Many people resist structure because they fear it will suffocate their spirit or bore them senseless. But here's the paradox: lack of structure is precisely what breeds monotony. Days without direction blur together. Weeks evaporate. Years pass in silence. Structure actually creates contrast and meaning. Work hours feel genuinely productive. Rest periods feel legitimately earned. Time with loved ones feels truly present. Without structure, everything merges into one gray fog and nothing ever feels finished. Intentionally shape what your evenings should feel like. Evenings are where your habits either flourish or deteriorate. If evenings are consumed by noise and stimulation, your mind never genuinely recovers. Establish a simple, nourishing rhythm. A moment when devices disappear. A time when conversation slows. An hour when reflection happens. This isn't about rules imposed from outside. This is about honoring your own nervous system. A peaceful evening births better sleep. Better sleep produces a stronger tomorrow. Structure extends into your emotional life, too. Most people surrender their schedule to their moods. Motivation strikes, they act. Fatigue descends, they stop. This pattern breeds chaos. Choose in advance how you'll behave regardless of your emotional weather. Decide that certain actions happen even on low-energy days. This quiets internal conflict. You stop battling yourself. You simply follow through on the structure you've already decided. Your physical environment must be designed to support your structure. A cluttered space generates mental static even if your conscious mind thinks it's adjusted. Consciously decide what belongs in your space and what doesn't. Establish where things go. Physical order creates mental clarity. This isn't about aesthetics or Instagram-worthy spaces. This is about reducing friction so you can conserve willpower for genuinely important decisions. Relationships also require intentional architecture. Without clear boundaries, relationships become depleting. Decide how much time you genuinely give. Define when you're available and when you're not. Establish what behavior you'll accept. This protects both your energy and your dignity. People respond profoundly to clarity. Confusion breeds conflict. Structure builds trust. Creating structure also means identifying what you will no longer do. Every agreement to something new means saying no to something else. Every commitment consumes precious time. Choose with intention. Countless people feel buried not because they lack capability but because they've overcommit. They say yes to escape discomfort and then pay with constant stress. True structure demands courage, the willingness to disappoint someone briefly to avoid disappointing yourself perpetually. Structure generates unstoppable momentum. When actions repeat with reliable consistency, confidence naturally grows. You begin trusting yourself. You commit to something and then follow through. That builds genuine self-respect. Self-respect transforms your posture, your voice, your presence. People respond differently to someone who carries quiet, earned authority. Life will absolutely bring surprises. Structure doesn't eliminate challenges, but it prepares you to navigate them without losing your equilibrium. When unexpected storms arrive, structure becomes your anchor. You return to your system instead of spiraling into panic. It becomes your stabilizing force, not loud or dramatic, but felt internally as steady strength. Most people wait for motivation to materialize before organizing their existence. But motivation doesn't precede clarity. Clarity creates motivation. Establish your structure first. Follow it even when enthusiasm has vanished. Energy follows action. Confidence follows consistency. Peace follows order. If today feels chaotic, it doesn't mean you failed. It means the structure was never consciously built. You can construct it starting now. Begin small. 1 hour. 1 routine. 1 boundary. Build from that foundation. A well-structured life doesn't appear overnight, but it begins with a single, clear commitment. When you actively architect how you want to live, you stop being a passenger in your own existence. You become the designer. That transformation fundamentally changes how you perceive obstacles. Challenges become manageable tasks. Tasks become achievable projects. Life feels lighter, not because it becomes easier, but because it becomes intelligible. Choose the shape of your days. Choose the rhythm of your weeks. Choose the standards you'll uphold for your energy and attention. Life responds with remarkable speed to clarity. Order creates liberation. Structure creates peace. And peace provides you the strength to grow purposefully, day after day, with genuine direction. Chapter 2: Choose your compass before urgency chooses for you. The majority of people spend their entire existence reacting. They respond to messages, alerts, requests, problems, unsolicited opinions, and crises manufactured by others. By the day's end, they feel consumed yet inexplicably empty. Frenzied activity without direction drains the human spirit. This isn't because these people are negligent. It happens because the human brain is neurologically wired to respond rapidly to what feels urgent. Without deliberate priorities, urgency becomes the tyrant. When urgency rules, your purpose gets quietly sidelined. Choosing your priorities before the chaos of reaction hits is one of the most transformative decisions a person can make. It's also one of the hardest. Reaction feels natural. Priority requires conscious thought. Reaction feels efficient. Priority appears slower initially. But here's what most people don't realize: spending your day in pure reaction mode costs far more energy than prioritization ever will. When you wake without crystalline priorities, your mind remains wide open to everything. Every notification hijacks your attention. Every request feels essential. Every problem feels personal. This keeps your nervous system in constant high alert throughout the day. That relentless activation creates exhaustion, even when the actual work isn't particularly demanding. This is why people feel drained after days filled with interruptions instead of meaningful breakthroughs. Priorities give your mind a sophisticated filter. They whisper to your brain what genuinely matters and what can safely wait. When priorities are unmistakable, everything else naturally finds its place. Your mind finally relaxes because it knows exactly what deserves focus. That concentrated calm permits deeper work, sharper decisions, and stronger execution. Most people conflate priorities with tasks. Tasks are fluid and shift daily. Priorities are bedrock. They remain constant. Priorities are the essential areas of life that deserve your best energy: your health, your growth, your family, your work, your contribution to others, your rest, your evolution. When these are crystal clear, individual tasks organize themselves around them. Without clear priorities, tasks wage war with each other for your limited attention. Reaction places you at the mercy of other people's agendas. Priority places you in the driver's seat of your own direction. This doesn't mean abandoning responsibility. It means choosing the order in which you address it. When everything wears the same mask of importance, nothing receives your best energy. The moment you react without thinking, you hand control to the loudest voice, the nearest crisis, or the strongest emotion. Over time, this trains your brain to remain scattered. Your capacity for focus atrophies. Your confidence erodes. You begin doubting your ability to manage your own existence. The painful truth: the actual problem isn't your capability. It's the absence of deliberate priority. Choosing priorities demands radical honesty. You must acknowledge that some things matter more than others. Many people resist this because they want to keep every door open. But a life without chosen priorities becomes suffocated and scattered. Real growth requires intentional selection. You choose what deserves your focus and consciously release the rest. Each morning, your mind should already know your priorities. This eliminates mental friction. When something unexpected surfaces, you compare it to your priorities. If it advances them, you act. If it doesn't, you delay, decline, or delegate. This simple comparison liberates hours of wasted effort every single week. Emotions frequently hijack people into unconscious reaction. Guilt, fear, excitement, and social pressure can all override priorities if those priorities weren't decided during calm, clear moments. This is why priorities must be chosen during tranquility, never during emotional intensity. A calm mind chooses wisely. An emotional mind reacts impulsively. People often say they're drowning. In truth, they're not drowning in work, they're drowning in decisions. Priorities collapse the decision-making load. When priorities are unambiguous, numerous choices are already made. You stop debating. You stop second-guessing. You move forward with confidence because your direction is locked in. Choosing priorities also fortifies your relationships. When you know what matters, you communicate with clarity. Others understand when you're accessible and when you're focused. This dissolves misunderstandings. People respect consistency, even when they disagree with your choices. Without priorities, rest becomes guilt-soaked. With priorities, rest becomes purposeful. You understand precisely when work time ends and recovery begins. This equilibrium prevents burnout. A rested mind thinks with clarity. A clear mind reinforces your priorities. This creates a virtuous cycle. The world is architected to reward those who react quickly. Notifications, breaking news, and demands are engineered to capture attention. If you don't consciously choose your priorities, the world will select them for you. That choice rarely leads to fulfillment. It leads to depletion. Priorities aren't rigid dogma. They're guiding principles that evolve consciously as life shifts. When circumstances change, priorities adjust with intention, not automatically. This keeps you grounded during seasons of transformation. Many fear that stopping constant reaction means missing out. The truth is devastating. Reactivity causes you to miss what truly matters. Time spent reacting is time not invested in what counts. Investment builds something over time. Reaction leaves nothing of lasting value. Choosing priorities teaches invaluable patience. You learn to pause before responding. That pause creates space for wiser judgment. Wiser judgment creates better outcomes. Over time, those around you notice your steadiness. They trust your decisions because they witness consistency. Life feels lighter when priorities lead. Obstacles still arise, but they no longer feel like tsunamis. You face them one at a time, in order of importance. This restores your sense of capability. You feel genuinely in control again. At day's end, your reflection changes. Instead of wondering why you were perpetually busy, you ask whether you honored your priorities. That question brings profound clarity. Even if the day was imperfect, you know whether it held meaning. Choosing priorities before reacting is a daily practice. It strengthens with repetition. Initially, it feels foreign. Reaction is habitual. Priority is intentional. With sustained practice, intentional living becomes second nature. Chaos gives way to calm. Confusion dissolves into clear direction. This principle doesn't demand dramatic transformation. It demands awareness. Awareness before response. Thought before action. Choice before habit. Each time you pause and consult your priorities, you strengthen your capacity for self-leadership. A life organized around true priorities feels grounded. You navigate each day with purpose rather than urgency. You finish each day with energy rather than regret. Growth becomes consistent, not accidental. When priorities guide your actions, your behavior aligns with your deepest values. That alignment births inner peace. Peace cultivates confidence. Confidence sustains courage. Courage allows you to defend your priorities even when pressure mounts. Choose what matters before the noise begins. Decide what deserves your finest energy. Then allow everything else to fall naturally into place. This is how a scattered existence becomes focused. This is how effort becomes genuine progress. This is how you reclaim your life from the tyranny of reaction. Chapter 3: Install rules that guard your mental energy. Most people believe freedom lives in unlimited choices. In reality, the opposite is devastatingly true. Too many choices obliterate the mind. They breed hesitation, generate stress, and deplete mental reserves. This is why people feel exhausted before the day even begins. They waste energy deciding instead of living. Installing rules for daily personal decisions is how you protect your mental energy and reclaim command of your life. Every single day you make hundreds of micro-decisions: when to wake, what to eat, how long to scroll, whether to move your body, whether to speak up or stay silent. Each decision costs mental energy. By afternoon, your mind weakens considerably. This is when poor choices multiply, not from moral failure but from complete mental depletion. Rules annihilate unnecessary thinking. A rule is a decision you make once so you never have to decide again. This creates vast mental space. When your mind is liberated from constant deliberation, it becomes sharper, calmer, and intensely focused. High achievers don't depend on willpower. They depend on rules. Willpower fluctuates with sleep, nutrition, and stress levels. Rules remain unmovable. A rule states, "This is how I live regardless of my emotional weather today." That stability generates strength over extended time. Rules aren't restrictions imposed externally. They're agreements you make with yourself. They embody your values. They simplify existence. When rules direct your daily actions, chaos loses its stranglehold. Consider how much time evaporates deciding the same things repeatedly. Should I exercise today? Should I consume or create? Should I stay awake late? These questions recycle because no rule exists. Once a rule is established, the question disappears entirely. Rules must be straightforward and genuinely realistic. They're not designed to impress anyone. They're designed to support you during ordinary, unglamorous days. A rule that's too extreme will shatter. A rule that fits your actual life will endure. Rules also extinguish internal conflict. Many people live in perpetual negotiation with themselves. One part craves progress. Another part craves comfort. This internal battle exhausts your confidence. A clear rule ends the argument. You follow the rule and move forward. Daily personal rules reshape identity. Over time, you stop asking who you want to become. Your consistent actions answer that question. Repeated behavior builds genuine self-trust. Self-trust generates confidence. Confidence transforms how you carry yourself through the world. Rules protect you when emotions spike. Anger, fear, excitement, and boredom often trigger decisions you later regret intensely. A rule stands between your emotion and your action. It creates a critical pause. That pause saves relationships, preserves careers, and protects your self-respect. Rules also create fairness toward yourself. You treat yourself with consistency. You stop excusing yourself on difficult days and punishing yourself on good days. Consistency builds unforced discipline. Many believe rules eliminate flexibility. The opposite is true. Rules create genuine freedom. When basic decisions run on autopilot, you gain real freedom to focus on growth, creativity, and authentic connection. Your best energy no longer hemorrhages on trivial choices. Rules help you start when motivation has disappeared. You don't wait to feel prepared. The rule says you begin. Progress happens after action, not before it. This trains your brain to move forward even when resistance pulls back. Rules help you stop, too. Countless people struggle with overwork and constant overthinking. A rule that defines recovery time gives explicit permission to rest without guilt. Rest becomes intentional instead of accidental or desperate. The human brain craves clarity. When rules are explicit, stress diminishes. Anxiety often springs from uncertainty. Rules erase uncertainty. They create reliable predictability. Predictability births calm. Rules require occasional review. Life evolves. Responsibilities transform. Rules should evolve with conscious awareness, never driven by emotion. You adjust them deliberately instead of abandoning them impulsively in moments of frustration. Setting rules doesn't guarantee perfection. You'll break a rule occasionally. The key is response. You return to the rule without drama or self-flagellation. This builds genuine resilience. You learn to recover quickly instead of surrendering entirely. Rules also teach profound responsibility. You stop blaming circumstances for repeated patterns. You acknowledge the truth: without rules, behavior drifts. With rules, behavior thrives. People respect those who live by clear personal standards. Even if they don't share those standards, they sense stability. Stability generates trust. Trust strengthens every relationship. Rules bring direction during chaos. When everything feels urgent, rules remind you of what actually matters. They guide your choices quietly in the background. This dissolves stress without conscious effort. Most people attempt life transformation by chasing motivation. Motivation evaporates. Rules endure. A rule doesn't require excitement. It only requires commitment. When rules structure your days, progress becomes steady. You abandon bursts of effort followed by long silences. Consistent small actions replace dramatic swings. Growth becomes predictable and reliable. Rules simplify identity. You understand who you are because you know how you behave. This clarity eliminates doubt. Doubt drains everything. Clarity restores your energy. Life becomes easier not because it's simpler but because decisions grow lighter. You navigate each day with less internal resistance. You feel less torn between competing directions. Rules also defend long-term goals. Short-term desires constantly wage war against future plans. A rule prioritizes what matters most over what feels good now. This builds genuine self-respect. You begin respecting yourself profoundly. Installing rules for daily personal decisions isn't about control. It's about genuine care. You value your future enough to remove obstacles from your present. You intentionally design your days instead of surrendering them to chance. When rules direct behavior, days feel intentional. Weeks feel productive. Months feel genuinely meaningful. You begin witnessing progress, not just activity. You stop asking why life feels chaotic. You recognize the missing architecture. You construct it quietly through simple rules followed with consistency. This principle transforms how life actually feels. Decisions become lighter. Stress decreases. Confidence expands. Direction strengthens. Decide how you'll live daily. Install rules that support who you're becoming. Follow them without drama. Adjust them with wisdom. Over time, these rules will organize your life from the inside outward. Chapter 4: Build unstoppable momentum through simple, repeatable actions. People constantly hunt for dramatic breakthroughs to feel in control. They wait for motivation to strike like lightning or for the perfect strategy to materialize. But here's the brutal truth: order doesn't arrive in one miraculous moment. It's constructed quietly through humble, repeatable actions, steps so small you can execute them even on your worst days. That's where genuine stability originates. Not in loud, showy moments, but in daily rhythms that anchor you to the ground. When your existence feels disorganized, the instinct is to push harder, work longer hours, scatter your focus across more things, pile more onto your already overflowing plate. But without true structure, that effort just creates exhaustion. You don't need more pressure. You need more rhythm. The kind that doesn't depend on willpower or mood. The kind that repeats so consistently it becomes woven into who you are. Humans are built for repetition. That's how the brain learns. That's how behavior becomes automatic. But without intention, repetition leads to destructive patterns. You keep doing what's familiar even if it sabotages you. This is why building order means identifying which actions deserve repetition and then executing them with quiet consistency. One massive reason people feel overwhelmed: their days consist of random, disconnected choices. There's no flow. No anchor points. They bounce from task to task, endlessly reacting to whatever surfaces. Over time, that absence of structure breeds crippling anxiety. You feel perpetually behind even after a day of relentless busyness. Simple, deliberate actions change this by giving your day structure and a steady frame you return to no matter what chaos erupts. Start small. Don't attempt to rebuild your entire existence in 1 week. Choose one section of your day, just one. Perhaps how you begin your mornings. Perhaps how you close your workday. Identify a time block that feels chaotic and commit to one small action you'll repeat there every single day. Not just when inspiration strikes. Not just when you feel energized. Especially when you're exhausted, bored, or stressed, that's when it matters most. For example, if mornings feel panicked and scattered, establish a 5-minute routine. Drink water. Sit in complete silence. Write your single most important priority. That's everything. Do it consistently. After repetition, your mind begins settling the moment that routine begins. The size of the action is irrelevant. The frequency of repetition is everything. Repetition transforms raw effort into lasting stability. Order emerges from knowing what comes next. When your day is flooded with uncertainty, you carry mental tension. Your brain stays on high alert, constantly scanning for the next move. But once you've practiced identical small actions countless times, your brain relaxes. It already knows the steps. You move through them without overthinking. That frees your attention for deeper focus and wiser choices. This principle applies everywhere: your health, your work, your relationships. If you want genuine command over your time, create blocks of repeated action. Check messages at the same hour daily. Review your objectives at a consistent time. Build a system for staying connected that you follow weekly, not randomly. These aren't chains. They're patterns that prevent your energy from scattering to the winds. Many people wait until they feel prepared to begin. But readiness is built by showing up. Repeating something daily creates the emotional foundation for action. The more often you do it, the less resistance you encounter. Internal debates disappear. You simply begin. That's how people become truly consistent, not through iron discipline but through making the action so normal it no longer requires convincing. There's also deep comfort in knowing you're not starting fresh every morning. When you live without rhythm, every sunrise feels like a complete restart. You have to rebuild momentum from zero. That's utterly exhausting. But with repeatable actions anchoring you, momentum carries forward. Even when the day implodes, there's a solid foundation to return to. That gives you genuine control even in chaos. Some people think routines are monotonous and kill creativity. The opposite is absolutely true. Creativity requires space. It demands clarity. Simple daily actions clear the mental clutter from your mind. When you're not constantly figuring out what to do next, you have more energy to think freely. Structure doesn't imprison you. It supports you. Examine the areas of your life that feel hardest to manage. Perhaps your eating habits are completely random. Perhaps your focus at work dissolves halfway through the day. Instead of attempting to fix everything simultaneously, ask what small repeated action would incrementally improve things. Eat the same nutritious breakfast daily. Block out a focused 90-minute work window without interruptions. These actions become your anchors. They hold you in place when life tries to scatter you in every direction. This also works for emotional patterns. If you struggle with spiraling thoughts or anxiety, build a repeatable check-in. Write your thoughts every night before sleep. Ask yourself 3 simple questions each evening. What went well today? What did I learn? What will I improve tomorrow? Executing this repeatedly trains your mind to process instead of spiral. The goal isn't to live like a machine. The goal is to stop wasting mental energy on things that don't deserve it. Repeating small actions liberates your mind for what genuinely matters. It permits you to be present with people, focused in work, and calm when difficulties arise. Don't wait for the perfect time to construct these rhythms. Start during the mess. That's precisely when they're needed most. And don't aim for variety initially. Aim for reliability. Once the system is solid, adjust it. But first it needs to hold steady. The best form of order is the kind that endures when life gets brutal. That comes from habits already embedded before pressure arrives. You don't need to consciously consider them. They run silently in the background and provide strength you don't even realize. Look at your life and identify where disorder drains you most. Choose one area. Build one simple repeatable action. Make it so small you can do it without stress. Execute it daily, then expand from there. These habits grow slowly, but they will transform everything. They create a foundation you can absolutely count on, not for a few weeks, but for life. That's how genuine order begins. Quiet. Simple. Repeated. Utterly life-changing. Chapter 5. Become a gatekeeper of what enters your mind. What you consume, what you feed your mind and body, shapes how you think, how you feel, and ultimately how you behave. Most people remain blind to how deeply their behavior is influenced by what they permit inside, what they watch, who they listen to, what they scroll through, even which environments they inhabit. The inputs surrounding you day after day slowly sculpt the person you're becoming, whether you notice it or not. You cannot live a focused, productive, meaningful existence if your inputs are constantly chaotic, negative, and draining. We inhabit a world saturated with relentless signals competing frantically for your attention: notifications, headlines, music, opinions, arguments, suggestions, all waging war for fragments of your consciousness. If you don't deliberately control what enters your mind, you'll discover you've become someone you never chose. And the most insidious part, it won't happen overnight. It unfolds gradually. One small distraction at a time. One negative voice at a time. One meaningless scroll at a time. Before you realize what's happened, you're embodying patterns that contradict your values and sabotage your goals. You must become ruthlessly intentional about your inputs. The brain isn't neutral. It absorbs everything it encounters. It adapts to what it witnesses. If your information stream overflows with conflict, your mind will expect it everywhere. If your physical surroundings feel loud and chaotic, your thinking will mirror that. If your conversations are shallow and complaint-soaked, you'll gradually lower your expectations for life itself. That's how identity shifts, not through isolated moments but through sustained exposure to what you allow. Controlling your inputs doesn't mean hiding from reality. It means deciding what merits space in your attention. It means recognizing that what you consume is just as vital as what you produce. You can't expect to remain sharp and driven if you're perpetually drowning in low-quality noise. Just as food affects the body, information and energy affect the mind. Examine your world and ask yourself with brutal honesty, what are you allowing in every single day? Who are the voices consuming most of your ear? Are they elevating you or diminishing you? What content are you scrolling through during exhaustion or boredom? Is it expanding you or leaving you hollow afterward? You cannot expect clarity and confidence if your mental landscape is chaotic. Start by constructing a filter. That filter is built from your values and aspirations. If something doesn't align with who you're becoming, it shouldn't have regular access to your attention. This includes people, conversations, videos, podcasts, articles, environments, and even your internal dialogue. If you want a sharp, focused mind, you must construct a life that supports focus rather than corrodes it. For instance, if your goal is cultivating calm, concentrated consciousness but you start every morning absorbing heated news or diving into inflammatory social media debates, you're already working against yourself. You've poisoned your inputs before the day even begins. You can transform this by architecting your mornings around genuine clarity. No phone for the first 30 minutes. No messages. No outside opinions. Just space for your own mind to settle and crystallize. The same applies to who you spend time around. You don't need to eliminate people, but you must protect access. If someone constantly complains, gossips, or depletes your energy, you owe yourself protection. Time is energy. You don't get it back. Spend it with intention. Your behavior is profoundly shaped by repetition. Hear something often enough, even if it's untrue, and it begins sounding normal. If you're constantly consuming negativity or fear-based thinking, your decisions will reflect that toxicity. This is why selecting voices that encourage discipline, learning, growth, and peace is non-negotiable. You don't need more noise. You need more clarity. Think of your inputs like a carefully curated playlist. You choose what plays. Fill your days with material that aligns with who you're becoming, books that challenge your thinking, conversations that inspire you, routines that calm your nervous system. These aren't luxuries. These are tools for transformation. They quietly support your goals in the background. Most people attempt behavior change by forcing new actions, but those actions collapse when the environment doesn't support them. You cannot build new habits inside mental chaos. Start by transforming what's coming in. When you purify your inputs, your natural behavior begins shifting. You make wiser choices without forcing yourself. Your brain is also shaped by physical inputs. The light in your room. The noise around you. The colors you see. The scents you notice. These seem trivial, but they profoundly impact your focus and mood. If your environment feels cluttered and noisy, you'll feel that tension in your thinking. A calm space creates a calm mind. That's not coincidence. It's direct cause and effect. Don't underestimate silence's power. In a civilization addicted to stimulation, silence becomes one of your most powerful available inputs. Silence lets you think. It gives your mind space to process instead of constantly react. If you want to transform your behavior, start giving your brain time away from relentless input. A short walk with no music. A quiet evening with no screens. These moments accumulate and create genuine mental strength. Also track what you're repeating internally. Your self-talk is an input too. If you're constantly telling yourself you're insufficient or that nothing works out, those words sculpt your behavior. You'll hesitate more. You'll avoid risk. You'll stay small. But if you speak to yourself with genuine honesty and encouragement, your actions become stronger. Don't just watch what you permit from outside. Monitor what you're feeding yourself inside. Transforming your inputs doesn't demand perfection. It demands awareness. You won't always choose correctly, but the more intentional you become, the more your behavior aligns with your goals. You'll spend less time recovering from destructive moods and more time constructing the life you actually want. Make modest shifts. Stop checking your phone the moment you wake. Unfollow accounts that diminish you. Invest 10 minutes daily listening to something that sharpens your mind. Defend your space from noise when you're working. These aren't major sacrifices. They're small adjustments that compound into extraordinary transformation over time. Remember, you become what you're around most. That includes people, content, conversations, environments, and your own attention. If you want to grow, you must protect your mind like it matters, because it absolutely does. You can't treat your attention like it's infinite. You have only so much each day. Spend it on inputs that move you forward. The world won't cease attempting to influence you, but you possess the power to decide what you allow in. That choice becomes your direction. That direction becomes your behavior. Your behavior builds your life. Protect your inputs and you protect your future. It's not always comfortable, but it's always worth it. Chapter 6: Establish clear boundaries for time and energy. Every human possesses a strictly limited amount of time and energy each day. No one receives bonus hours. No one has infinite reserves. What separates those who feel focused, grounded, and calm from those who feel utterly drained and overwhelmed isn't more talent or fortunate circumstances. It's clear, unyielding boundaries. Boundaries are how you defend what matters. They're the invisible lines that determine how your time and energy flow, and equally important, how they don't. Without boundaries, everything becomes urgent. Every message appears critical. Every request feels mandatory. Every small task consumes disproportionate space. Over extended time, you lose your sense of direction. You begin living purely in response mode, endlessly reacting to other people's needs, schedules, and demands. That erodes you, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. Creating clear boundaries isn't about being cruel. It's about being truthful. It's about acknowledging that you cannot do everything, be everywhere, or satisfy everyone. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are sacred, and once expended, they're gone forever. If you're constantly distributing them without purpose, there won't be enough left for what matters most to you. The first place to establish boundaries is your time. Examine your days and ask where your time genuinely flows. Not where you wish it went, but where it actually disappears. You'll start seeing patterns. You'll notice moments where you surrendered to things that didn't warrant your energy. You'll realize how much time evaporates into mindless distraction, constant interruptions, or unplanned conversations. Time boundaries begin by defining what each time block is designed for: focused work, genuine rest, authentic connection, active learning. When you know what a block of time is meant to hold, you protect it far more easily. Without time boundaries, work bleeds into evenings. Social media devours your mornings. Your focus shatters every few minutes because you're attempting to stay available for everything simultaneously. But when you decide in advance that specific hours are reserved for specific purposes, your days gain real shape. You no longer interrogate yourself 100 times asking what you should be doing. You already know. Energy boundaries work identically. Some conversations or environments drain you more substantially than others. That's not something to ignore, it's something to acknowledge and respect. If every interaction with someone leaves you mentally exhausted or emotionally depleted, that's a signal. If certain spaces make focused thinking nearly impossible, that's also a signal. Energy boundaries mean making small, strategic shifts that protect your mental and emotional well-being. This might mean limiting call duration. It might mean taking brief recovery breaks after demanding meetings. It might mean keeping your phone away before bed because you know it triggers racing thoughts. These aren't restrictions limiting your life. They're boundaries that preserve your energy so you can show up fully when it genuinely matters. Another essential boundary skill is learning to say no without drowning in guilt. Many people struggle profoundly with this. They agree to things they lack capacity for because they fear disappointing someone. But every yes that doesn't align with your values is a hidden no to something that does, perhaps your well-being, your goals, your peace. Saying no isn't rejecting people. It's protecting your path. Make this easier by preparing a few default responses for when someone asks for something that doesn't fit your priorities. You don't need to justify your entire existence. A simple, "I'm not able to take that on right now," or "I need to focus on other things currently," suffices. You don't need to apologize for managing your time and energy. You just need to be clear. Boundaries also help you contain distraction. Every ping, alert, or notification is an invitation to lose focus. Without explicit rules for technology engagement, your day will be sculpted by whatever grabs attention first. That's not how meaningful lives are constructed. That's how you end up frantically busy but feeling nothing got genuinely accomplished. Start small. Eliminate non-essential notifications. Schedule specific times to check messages. Carve out focus windows where absolutely nothing interrupts unless it's an emergency. These aren't extreme. They're intelligent choices that protect your attention. When your attention is guarded, your energy remains stable and your work deepens considerably. You can also establish boundaries around emotional energy. If you're constantly absorbing other people's stress, their opinions, their expectations, it will corrupt your peace. You can care deeply without carrying their emotions. You can listen without dissolving yourself. You can support others while protecting your own emotional health. This might look like leaving certain conversations earlier than expected. It might mean refusing to engage in circular arguments. It might mean allowing people to experience frustration with your choices without you attempting to fix everything. Boundaries aren't just about time and tasks. They're about emotional clarity, knowing what belongs to you and what doesn't. Sometimes people resist when you establish boundaries. They're conditioned to your availability. They're habituated to your yes responses. That's normal. That's part of the work. Your responsibility isn't ensuring everyone feels comfortable with your boundaries. Your responsibility is staying loyal to what keeps you grounded and healthy. Over time, people adapt. Even if some don't, you'll find yourself surrounded by people who honor your space instead of fighting it. Boundaries also create room for genuine rest. Without clear lines, rest becomes contaminated with guilt. You sit down to relax but your mind races through everything you should be doing. Boundaries silence that noise. They give you explicit permission to step back and recharge because you've already decided where work ends and recovery begins. And here's one of the most transformative aspects of living with boundaries: peace. When you know where your time flows and where your energy is protected, life feels less frantic. You stop chasing every request. You stop justifying every decision. You begin moving through days with quiet clarity and calm. You do less, but you do it better. You do it with presence. This doesn't happen instantly. Building, adjusting, and reinforcing boundaries takes sustained time. Some days you'll slip back. Some days people will push. But the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. You begin choosing your time instead of surrendering it. You start honoring your energy instead of stretching it thin. You begin living on your terms, not in constant reaction to everyone else's agendas. Boundaries don't build walls. They build strength. They keep your life organized, your mind clear, and your spirit steady. In a world overflowing with demands, boundaries are how you stay tethered to what genuinely matters. Not eventually, but right now, one clear line at a time. Chapter 7: Act with discipline when motivation disappears. Most people postpone action until they feel like acting. They wait for motivation to arrive, for energy to surge, for inspiration to strike. But if you architect your life around how you feel, your progress will be sluggish, unpredictable, and fragile. Moods fluctuate. Discipline endures. People who achieve lasting transformation don't depend on mood. They depend on consistency. And they take action whether they feel like it or not. Some days motivation feels abundant. Everything feels clear. The work feels effortless. But there are also days when energy is depleted, your mind feels weighted, and distractions seem infinitely more interesting than your goals. If your actions only appear on good energy days, your results will always be temporary. Real transformation happens on the days when you show up without excitement, without energy, without certainty. Acting consistently isn't about becoming rigid. It's about genuine commitment. It's about declaring, this matters enough that I'm doing it even when I'm not in the mood. When you operate from that foundational mindset, your identity fundamentally shifts. You stop depending on emotion to propel you forward. You construct habits that carry you through fluctuations. Moods are inherently temporary. They shift with sleep quality, nutrition, weather, stress levels, and factors you can't fully predict. But your goals shouldn't depend on those shifts. You wouldn't trust a person who changes direction every few minutes. So why entrust a mood that changes every few hours to determine your life's direction? Consistency matters profoundly because the brain and body thrive on repetition. They develop strength through routine. They grow through structure. Every time you repeat an action, you create a neural pathway that makes the action easier the next iteration. That's how genuine habits form, not through willpower alone but through repeated behavior executed over and over. Consider brushing your teeth. You don't deliberate whether you feel like it. You don't debate it nightly. You do it because it's non-negotiable routine. Imagine treating your most important aspirations identically. Not dramatic. Just expected. Just done. Too many people overthink small actions. They treat every workout, every reading session, every healthy meal like it must feel extraordinary. But genuine achievement isn't built on occasional dramatic efforts. It's constructed from daily small actions, done steadily, done quietly, done even when no reward appears visible. It's not about perfection. It's about pattern. You'll miss a day. You'll feel off. That's inherently human. But the critical element is response. Missing one day means nothing. Allowing it to become a week is what destroys momentum. People don't fail because they fall. They fail because they never return. Consistency proves to yourself that you're truly serious. When you keep showing up, your brain begins trusting you. You stop needing to motivate yourself because your identity is now attached to action, not emotion. You become the kind of person who follows through, not occasionally but daily. Routine is also powerful because it reduces the mental tax of decisions. You don't need to convince yourself every time. You don't negotiate with your mind. The more decisions you automate through consistent action, the more energy you preserve for things requiring genuine thought. You also become far more resilient. Life will disrupt your plans. Emergencies will occur. Disappointments will materialize. But if you're conditioned to acting regardless of mood, you'll be better equipped to stay grounded. You won't unravel when things feel difficult. You'll adjust. You'll persist. You'll remain on course. Consistency isn't always visible to observers. Most people only witness results, but results emerge long after the work begins. Early consistency feels slow, tedious even. You might not see substantial change, but that doesn't mean it's not operating. Just as water doesn't boil until reaching a specific temperature, your results won't manifest until consistency builds sufficient momentum to break through. That's why trusting the process is non-negotiable. You must trust that showing up daily, even when it feels like nothing's happening, is what creates something extraordinary. Everyone desires progress. Few possess the patience to repeat identical actions long enough to achieve it. To act consistently, you need systems, not inspiration. Systems are small structures that make action automatic, a designated place for your workout clothes, a set hour for focused work, reminder telling you when to disconnect. Systems eliminate friction. They help you execute even when you're fatigued, even when life feels unbearably heavy. You also need to eliminate drama from your routines. Stop waiting for the ideal moment. Stop checking whether you're in the mood. Set the action and execute. If it takes 10 minutes, excellent. If it's not your finest effort, still good. The point is that you did it. That action repeated is what transforms how you see yourself. Over time, something remarkable happens. You'll feel stronger, not because life became easier but because you stopped waiting to feel prepared. You'll trust yourself more profoundly because you've witnessed what happens when you act without needing emotional permission. You'll make decisions rooted in principles rather than feelings. And that's when genuine transformation begins. Because when you're no longer controlled by how you feel, you become unshakable. You stop hunting motivation and start building discipline. You stop second-guessing and start moving. You stop explaining why you didn't and start becoming someone who always does. There's nothing glamorous about consistency. It's not exciting. It doesn't always look impressive. But it's extraordinarily powerful. It builds character. It creates genuine peace of mind. It moves you forward on the days when absolutely nothing else seems to work. So if you're exhausted from feeling stuck, stop waiting to feel prepared. Define who you're becoming. Then act like that person today and tomorrow and again the day after. Don't do it for applause. Don't do it for results. Do it because that's who you're building yourself to be. Let that truth carry you forward with consistency, confidence, and quiet strength toward the life you actually want to create. Chapter 8: Audit the invisible patterns running your life. You navigate most of your existence through patterns you don't even recognize. How you start your mornings. How you respond to pressure. How you approach obstacles. How you speak to yourself in solitude. These patterns run in the background, silently. And if you never pause to examine them, they'll keep guiding your choices without your conscious knowledge. This is why genuine growth begins with unflinching awareness. You cannot transform what you refuse to see. Most people desire different outcomes. But they never stop to investigate where their current outcomes originate. They adopt new strategies, absorb new information, start new habits, all while operating on the same unconscious loops that created their current situation. If you've been trapped in recurring situations, having identical problems, responding identically, there's likely a silent pattern controlling it. Your patterns are constructed from years of repetition. Childhood experiences. Beliefs absorbed in school. Situations you survived. Eventually, they calcify into ingrained behaviors: how you react, what you say, what you avoid, how you think. And because they feel familiar, you never question them. That's the danger. Familiarity is not proof of truth. It's merely evidence of repetition. Examine your past week. Not the surface tasks but how you actually moved through your days. Did you feel rushed or steady? Did you scroll every time boredom hit? Did you avoid difficult conversations? Did you procrastinate on things that matter? These aren't random behaviors. These are habits rooted in deeper patterns. Unless you examine them honestly, they'll keep repeating in loops, quietly constructing your reality behind the scenes. Many patterns are obvious, but most are deceptively subtle. The way you speak to yourself after failure. The way you automatically agree to things you don't want. The way you escape emotional discomfort through distraction. These are learned responses. Without vigilance, they become your identity, not because they're true but because they're practiced. You must slow down long enough to study yourself, not judge yourself, but study yourself. Ask real questions. What triggers certain reactions in me? When do I typically give up? When do I feel most lucid? Most anxious? Most confident? Patterns will emerge. Those themes reveal what you've been unknowingly practicing. You don't need to fix everything simultaneously. You need to gain awareness. Awareness creates choices. Without it, you react. With it, you respond. That single shift transforms how you approach everything. Once you see a pattern, you can interrupt it. You can ask, is this how I want to keep living? Not from shame, but from clarity. Some patterns served you at one point. Maybe you learned silence to survive. Maybe you stayed busy to numb pain. Maybe you became emotionally independent because no one showed up. But just because something helped you endure doesn't mean it should lead your present life. Here's something crucial: patterns don't evaporate because you want them gone. They lose power when you stop feeding them. This is why awareness alone is insufficient. You need to pair awareness with deliberate new action. If you always procrastinate by checking your phone, notice that, then stay with the discomfort next time. Sit with it. Let it pass. Each time you do that, you're rewiring the loop. Auditing patterns involves examining what you believe, not just what you do. Many carry silent beliefs guiding every decision: I'm not enough. Things never work out. People don't truly care. These beliefs shape behavior in ways that feel normal but aren't healthy. Bring these beliefs into the light and question them. Where did this originate? Is it actually true? What has believing this cost me? Also examine your environment. Your surroundings reflect and reinforce your patterns: daily voices, home routines, systems you've built or neglected, phone habits, digital spaces. If your environment constantly pulls you toward old behaviors, you'll remain stuck even with good intentions. Auditing patterns means evaluating your entire setup. Don't neglect emotional reactions. If you're perpetually defensive, withdrawing, shutting down, or over-explaining, that's a pattern. Emotions aren't random, they're messengers. Instead of blaming yourself for emotional reactions, get genuinely curious. Ask what they're protecting. What fear or memory they're guarding. That curiosity breaks the loop. It helps you meet your patterns with compassion, not judgment. You cannot organize your outer life without organizing your inner world. The outside mirrors the inside. If things always feel chaotic, it's not merely a scheduling problem. It's a pattern problem. Maybe it's overcommitting. People-pleasing. Perfectionism. Not following through. These aren't personality traits. They're repeated responses that can be restructured through awareness and deliberate choice. One of the most transformative practices is weekly reflection. Take time each week to ask, what repeated behaviors serve me? What slowed me down? What do I keep doing that no longer serves me? This is how you move forward without carrying unconscious patterns' weight. Some resist this self-examination because they fear what they'll discover. But here's the truth: you're already living out your patterns. Looking at them doesn't create them, it simply gives you power to change them. Avoiding them only keeps you stuck in circles. Every new chapter of your life demands releasing an old pattern. You cannot carry yesterday's habits into tomorrow's aspirations. The life you want isn't built in one day. It's built in small choices, repeated daily. And if you don't pause to audit what you're repeating, you'll keep spiraling instead of advancing. This work isn't flashy. It's often uncomfortable. But it's the most direct path to liberating yourself from the loops keeping your life smaller than it deserves. You don't need to become someone completely different. You need to return to who you were before patterns got in the way. That begins with genuine attention. So invest the time to pause, not to fix everything but to observe. Notice what you do automatically. Notice what you reach for during stress. Notice what thoughts repeat on loop. Notice who you become when nobody's watching. That's where authentic change begins. Not through force but through clarity. Quiet clarity revealing exactly what must stop, what must continue, and what must start if you're ready to live intentionally instead of through unconscious repetition. Chapter 9: Dismantle habits that generate mental static. Certain habits appear insignificant on the surface but carry enormous weight, not financially or temporally but in mental clarity. These habits are frequently overlooked because they're ubiquitous. Everyone's doing them, so they must be acceptable, right? But when your mind feels scattered, your focus feels weak, decisions feel sluggish, and motivation disappears, these aren't signs of laziness. They're signs of mental chaos. And the source is frequently hidden in the small actions you repeat daily without thinking. Mental chaos doesn't materialize all at once. It accumulates gradually. You start forgetting things. Your thoughts feel thunderously loud. Everything seems more overwhelming than logic suggests. But nothing happens randomly. It happens because your brain is carrying excessive noise that you often create through your own repeated habits. The first category of habits creating chaos is digital saturation, constant checking, endless scrolling, jumping between apps every few minutes. This trains your brain to never fully settle. You unlock your phone to check one thing. Suddenly 15 minutes have vanished into content that didn't teach you, didn't serve you, didn't bring peace. These habits fragment your attention into microscopic pieces. When your attention is splintered, your thoughts splinter too. Your brain loses capacity for deep focus because it's being conditioned to expect constant task switching. Another chaos-generating habit is perpetual yes-saying. Every time you commit to something you lack time or energy for, you add invisible weight to your day. You might not feel it immediately, but your mind keeps score. It maintains a running inventory of things you promised. Even the trivial ones. That list occupies your mental space with worry, guilt, and unfinished obligations. One yes after another, and suddenly your schedule belongs to everyone except you. Then there's the habit of leaving loops open. You start things, get distracted, leave them incomplete, jump to the next. This creates clutter beyond your space, it creates clutter in your mind. Unfinished tasks function like silent background applications running in your consciousness. Even if you've forgotten them consciously, your brain hasn't. It keeps attempting to remind you. That accumulated tension erodes your capacity to stay present with what's happening right now. The more unfinished work you're carrying, the more chaotic your thinking becomes. Multitasking is another quiet source of mental turbulence. Attempting multiple things simultaneously might feel productive, but it fractures your awareness. You end up moving slower, making more errors, and feeling more exhausted. Your brain isn't engineered to constantly jump between tasks. When you give it complete focus, even briefly, it rewards you with clarity. When you constantly switch, it punishes you with anxiety and forgetfulness. You must also examine overconsumption, not just media but opinions, updates, and other people's ideas. When your brain is flooded with input but starved of thinking space, you lose your own voice. You begin doubting your decisions. You feel overwhelmed by choices, not because they're complex but because you've absorbed too much noise to think clearly. Consumption without intention is one of the fastest paths to losing peace. Procrastination is another habit generating chaos. Every time you delay something you know requires attention, you exchange short-term comfort for long-term stress. The task doesn't disappear. It hangs over you like a weight. It adds pressure to your thinking and keeps you in perpetual low-grade tension. When you procrastinate frequently, that tension becomes your baseline. You exist in constant subtle stress that never truly vanishes. Sleep disruption is a major source of mental disorder, yet many treat it as trivial. Scrolling in bed. Staying up late without purpose. Starting your day without sufficient rest transforms your brain into a haze machine. You cannot think clearly while perpetually exhausted. You become more reactive, more emotional, less in control. Fixing your sleep is one of the simplest ways to regain mental clarity, but it demands breaking the habits that steal your rest initially. And there's your internal dialogue. The habit of harsh self-judgment, doubt, constant negative predictions. This type of thinking isn't random. You've practiced it. The more you practice it, the more real it feels. Your brain listens to what you tell it. If you keep feeding it stress, guilt, and fear, it reflects that in your decisions, emotions, and confidence. It's not always about doing more. Sometimes the answer is thinking less destructively. One of the fastest ways to purify mental chaos is reducing your input. Turn off what doesn't serve you. Unfollow accounts triggering comparison. Mute what drains you. Create boundaries around your availability. Keep your phone distant during focused work. Stop checking messages during meals. These aren't extreme. They're intelligent steps toward creating space for your mind to rest and reset. Decluttering your environment also declutters your thoughts. Your physical surroundings reflect your mental state. If everything around you feels scattered, it's harder to feel organized internally. Begin with one small area: your desk, your inbox, your bag. Each space you clean gives your brain fewer things to track, fewer reminders of incompleteness, more breathing room. You don't need perfection to feel mentally strong. But you need intention. That means examining your daily actions honestly. Ask, what's creating stress unnecessarily? What's stealing energy that could fuel something meaningful? What habits feel normal but leave me diminished? Removing chaotic habits isn't about becoming robotic. It's about creating mental space so you can think lucidly, act with confidence, and feel anchored in your direction. It's about creating room for growth without being torn in 100 directions by noise and distraction. It's about living intentionally, not merely existing through motions. It all starts with awareness. You cannot fix what you won't acknowledge. So pause, slow down, and examine your days. Track the actions that leave your mind feeling scattered. Don't judge yourself. Just observe. Then, one by one, begin removing or replacing them. Not overnight, just incrementally. With every habit you change, your mind becomes sharper, your decisions clearer, your energy more focused. Mental peace isn't a gift you're waiting to receive. It's something you actively create. And it begins with the courage to stop doing what's comfortable but chaotic and start doing what's simple, clean, and clear. That's how you develop a mind you can absolutely count on every single day. Chapter 10: Make daily intention your most sacred commitment. Living with intention isn't about engineering the perfect plan or attempting to control every detail. It's about waking each day and consciously choosing how you show up. It means determining what kind of energy you'll bring to the people around you. What mindset you'll carry through challenges. What choices you'll make even when nobody's observing. Intention provides direction. Without it, you drift. You wake and follow whatever pulls you. You respond to whatever screams loudest. You act from habit instead of consciousness. After a while, you feel disconnected from your own existence. Committing daily to intentional living is how you reclaim your life from distraction, external pressure, and noise. It's how you stop experiencing time slipping away. Most people don't choose how they live. They repeat. They wake and execute what they've always done. Identical thoughts. Identical actions. Identical outcomes. Not because they want stagnation but because they never made the conscious decision to shift. That's why intention must become a daily ritual, not something you consider occasionally but something you return to repeatedly, especially during chaotic or uncertain seasons. Intentional living begins the moment consciousness arrives. Before the world demands anything from you, you ask yourself, what truly matters today? Where should my time flow? Who do I want to be in every room I enter? These aren't complicated questions, but they're potent because the answers shape your behavior, your focus, and your attitude. When you don't ask them, your day belongs to distractions. When you do, your day belongs to you. Living automatically feels easy. It's comfortable. It requires less effort. But comfort is not alignment. Just because something feels familiar doesn't mean it's supporting your growth. Living with intention means making daily choices rooted in your values, not your emotions. It means declining shortcuts and saying yes to long-term thinking. It means choosing what serves your future self, even when your present self craves comfort. One of the most essential aspects of intentional living is defending your time. Time is the container holding your choices. If you surrender your time to things that don't matter, you're not just losing minutes, you're losing direction. Every hour you spend should point towards something that genuinely matters to you, even in small ways. That doesn't mean constant productivity. Rest with intention is just as important as focused work. The difference is that you choose it consciously. You don't escape into it. You decide. You don't drift. Energy matters equally. You can possess unlimited time, but if you don't shepherd your energy, time won't matter. Living intentionally means noticing what energizes you and what drains you. It means restructuring your routines so you're not constantly recovering from exhaustion. It means honestly confronting people and tasks that take more than they contribute and deciding what must change. Protecting your energy isn't self-centered. It's necessary. You cannot serve your goals, your relationships, or your development from depletion. Your environment plays an essential role in intention. You cannot expect focus if your space overflows with distraction. You cannot expect clarity if your phone is perpetually within reach and every moment of silence is flooded with stimulation. Living intentionally means designing your environment to support your goals rather than undermine them. Position the book where you see it. Arrange your space to invite focus rather than avoidance. Make the default choice the one that supports who you're becoming. Another essential element of intentional living is your internal conversation. Your self-talk sculpts your actions. If you constantly criticize, doubt, or compare, you'll make choices reflecting those beliefs. But when your inner voice grounds itself in honesty, compassion, and clarity, you build a stronger foundation for every action. Living intentionally means being mindful of what you allow to repeat in your mind, because repeated thoughts become beliefs and beliefs become patterns. You don't need to schedule every minute to live intentionally. What matters far more is frequency of pausing. The pause is where awareness exists. Before starting a task, pause and ask, why am I doing this? What's the purpose? What outcome do I want? Before speaking, pause and ask, will these words create clarity or confusion? Before committing, pause and ask, does this align with my values or just my desire to please others? These brief moments of intentionality change everything. It's not about perfection. It's about consciousness. You will have days when you slip into old patterns. Days when you feel pulled by everything except what you care about. That's inherent to the process. The goal isn't living every day with flawless control. The goal is returning again and again. Returning to your values when you've drifted. Choosing again after you've reacted. Resetting your focus even after an entire day of distractions. That's what genuine commitment looks like. Not flawless effort but consistent return. Living with intention also means deciding in advance what kind of human you want to be and then aligning your actions with that vision. If you want to be someone calm under pressure, you begin practicing patience during small moments of stress. If you want to be someone who honors their word, you follow through on commitments even when inconvenient. If you want to be present with loved ones, you put the phone down during meals. These aren't grand dramatic gestures. They're small choices made consciously. There's a quiet power in this way of living. You feel less fragmented. You stop rushing through everything. You become more selective, more aware. You stop chasing everything appearing urgent and start focusing on what's genuinely important. You navigate days with direction instead of pressure, purpose instead of confusion. That doesn't guarantee every day is effortless. But it means every day is yours. To commit daily to living with intention, you don't need additional tools or strategies. You need one thing, presence. You need to wake and decide that your life matters enough to not squander it. You need to genuinely pay attention to what you're doing and why. And you need to choose repeatedly to live in alignment with who you truly are, not who the world insists you should be. You don't need to fix everything simultaneously. You just need to care enough to stop living on default. Choose what matters. Align your actions. Pause more. Say yes less frequently. Give yourself permission to transform your daily rhythm. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen with each choice made from clarity. Your life becomes more meaningful, more peaceful, more genuinely yours. That's what intention offers. Not control but direction. Not perfection but peace. And when you live from that foundation, everything around you begins shifting. You become a grounded force. You begin constructing a life reflecting what you actually believe. Not because you're lucky or extraordinarily disciplined or uniquely gifted, but because you decided to live deliberately every single day. That's the commitment. That's the transformation. That's the work that changes everything. Learn Elite Self-Mastery, 10 Principles that Transform Chaos into Clarity.